All right, let's dive right in. In this explainer, we're going to tackle a huge idea, something from Ozan Varol's work, all about what it really means to be a genius. And I'll tell you right now, the answer is probably not what you're expecting. Yeah, forget all that stuff about IQ scores or getting into Mensa. The great jazz musician Thelonious Monk put it perfectly. He said genius isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the most authentically you. It's about getting back to that spark, that thing that's inside every single one of us from the moment we're born. So that leads to a pretty tough question, right? Are you actually living like that? Are you showing up as the unique, one-of-a-kind person you are? Or are you kind of bending and twisting yourself to fit into shapes that other people want you to be? Let's get into it. So our story starts in a place we'll call the caterpillar's comfort zone. And you know what? This is where most of us spend our lives. We're just on autopilot. We're marching along, following a rhythm, but it's not our rhythm. And the craziest part, we often don't even notice. I mean, really think about it. Why did you choose your career? What about your core beliefs? Heck, even something as simple as which side of the bed you sleep on. So often, we just accept the default settings. We're basically sleepwalking through life following these scripts written for us by everyone else. Our parents, our teachers, society. Our past just keeps playing on a loop, dictating our future. It's like we're just reliving yesterday over and over again. And that sets up this massive internal battle, right? On one hand, you've got the world telling you, fit in, don't make waves, color inside the lines. But on the other hand, there's who you actually are. And that's this incredible, deep well of wisdom, built from every single thing you've ever done, every mistake you've ever made, every story that makes you, well, you. You know, the author, Ozan Varol, tells this great story. When he was a little kid, his favorite color was purple. But he quickly learned to tell people his favorite color was blue. Why? Because he figured that's what normal boys were supposed to like. And look, it seems like such a small thing, right? A favorite color. But it's the perfect example of how we start to chip away at our true selves, just to fit into some box. And making those little betrayals, it adds up. It has a huge cost. The price we pay for conforming, for just trying to be a copy of someone else, is we completely disconnect from that genius that's inside all of us. So the million-dollar question is, how the heck do we break out of that trap? Well, that brings us to the next part of the journey, inside the chrysalis. And let me tell you, this is where the magic and the mess happens. It's not pretty, it's not clean, it is the hard, gritty, but absolutely essential work of unbecoming. You have to shed all the stuff that isn't you, so you can finally figure out who is. And the very first step inside that chrysalis is something called unlearning. Think about it. Most of our education wasn't about pulling out our natural talents, was it? No, it was about stuffing our heads with facts. We were trained to memorize answers for a test, not to actually understand things. So unlearning is all about fixing that damage. It's like defragging your brain and getting rid of all that old programming that's just holding you back. Okay, to give you a feel for what this kind of thinking looks like in action, let's try a little puzzle. Picture this. It's World War II. American planes are coming back from missions, and they're covered in bullet holes. The engineers see the holes are all clustered on the wings and the main body of the plane. So, you're the lead engineer. Where do you add the extra armor to protect the planes? What's your gut tell you? Now, common sense screams, put the armor where all the bullet holes are. Obvious, right? But the genius answer, the one that actually saved lives, was the complete opposite. A mathematician named Abraham Wald came along and said, no, you've got it all wrong. You need to put the armor where the bullet holes aren't. Why on earth would he say that? Because the military was making a classic mistake. They were only looking at the planes that survived. Those bullet holes on the wings and fuselage, they were just marks showing where a plane could get hit and still make it back home. The planes that got hit in the engines or the cockpit, well, those planes never returned. The most important information wasn't in what they could see, it was in what was missing. That's unlearning. It's learning to look at the empty spaces, to see what everyone else misses. Okay, so how do we use this in our own lives? It comes down to learning how to discard what just doesn't work for you anymore. Step one, you've got to identify those outgrown stints. You know what I'm talking about? That job that drains your life force, that old belief that keeps you playing small, maybe even a relationship. Step two, flip the script in your head. Stop focusing on, oh no, what will I lose? And start asking, what will I gain if I finally let this go? And step three is huge. Remember that whole winners never quit thing? Forget it. Sometimes stubbornly persisting down the wrong path is the real failure. This quote from the author just hits it perfectly. Yeah, letting go, discarding that old stuff, it's gonna feel wobbly for a bit. You might lose your balance, But the alternative? Not discarding? Well, that would mean losing your entire self. And that brings us to the best part, the final act. This is where you emerge from that chrysalis and finally unfold your wings. This is the payoff for all that messy, hard work. This is what it looks like when you stop unbecoming and start becoming spectacularly, completely, unapologetically you. Just look at the story of Johnny Cash. He walks into his big audition at Sun Records, and what does he sing? Gospel songs. You know, the safe, popular stuff everyone else was doing. But the producer, the legendary Sam Phillips, stopped him. He basically told him to stop being a copycat and challenged him to find his own voice. So what did Cash do? He went home, and he came back as himself. He leaned into all the things that made him different. The dark clothes, that deep, somber voice, the songs about struggle and pain. He completely stopped trying to fit in, and in doing so, he became the man in block. He became a legend because he stopped trying to be like everybody else. And you know what? This isn't just for artists. You see the same exact thing in the business world. Take Kodak and Fujifilm. Both companies saw the writing on the wall. Film was dying. Kodak got stuck. They couldn't let go of their identity as the film company, and they went bankrupt. But Fuji was willing to unbecome. They looked at their core skills, chemistry, optics, and they diversified into completely new areas like cosmetics and medical imaging. They let their caterpillar self die, and their butterfly self absolutely soared. Okay, so what does all this mean for you right now? Let's boil it down. First, embrace your purple. You know, all those weird, quirky things about you that you might try to hide. Own them. Second, be like Fuji. Figure out your core ingredients, your first principles, and get creative with how you can use them. Third, stop trying to squeeze through doors that other people built. Write your own script. Create your own doors. And finally, and this is a big one, stop chasing medals. Stop looking for other people to tell you you're good enough. Focus on your own internal compass. And if you need one last push, just look at these numbers. They're staggering. In first grade, you ask a class, who's an artist? And 98% of the kids' hands shoot up. They are all artists. You ask that same question by the third grade, it's down to a third. By sixth grade, a measly 5%. We are literally schooled out of our own creativity. Picasso famously said that every child is an artist, and the real problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up. So I have to ask you, what happened to that artist inside of you? What happened to that first grader who was so sure, so ready to create with their hand waving in the air? When you boil it all down, this journey back to your own genius, it's a metamorphosis. It's not just a small change. It really does require a kind of death and rebirth. You have to find the courage to let that comfortable little caterpillar you've been die, so you can finally become the incredible winged creature you were always meant to be. So I'm going to leave you with this one last thought. From the brilliant Zora Neale Hurston, she said that the real agony in life isn't the struggle of changing. The real agony is the pain of staying exactly the same, of carrying an untold story around inside of you. So the final question is, what's the story that only you can tell?